Good morning, all of you. Fine, in the previous class, we had discussed federalism. Any doubts on federalism? Yes. को-फेडरेशन, देखो मैंने एक कंसेप्ट इंट्रोड्यूस किया है, उसके बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाना है. को-फेडरेशन इज ऑपोजिट ऑफ यूनिटरी फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. ठीक है, यूनिटरी फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट में क्या होता है? पावर इज कंसेंट्रेटेड in the center in the national government, but in a co-federation there is more power with the states. It is the states, actually it is the regional units, for a certain purpose they will come together. Yes, consequently they continue to hold maximum power, and at any time they can come out of the co-federation. It is just that. We'll not say it is a sub part of federation, है ना. एक अलग तरह का फॉर्मेशन है ना. फेडरेशन में इट इज एसेंशियल दैट द स्टेट्स विल नॉट हैव द राइट टू सेसीड. द रीजनल यूनिट्स डू नॉट हैव द राइट टू सेसीड इन अ फेडरेशन और इन अ यूनिटरी फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, बट इन को-फेडरेशन देयर एग्जिस्ट राइट टू सेसीड. फाइन. द ऑनलाइन साइट इज नॉट वर्किंग, आई थिंक सो. नहीं, यहाँ पे ऑन माई स्क्रीन इट इज. यस, फाइन. सो एनीबडी एल्स? क्वासी फेडरल. क्वासी फेडरल जो टर्म है, क्वासी मीन्स विच इज नॉट रियल. It seems like federal, but it is not true federation. Not true federation. Just understand, when we say India is quasi-federal, or political scholars have criticized India as a quasi-federation. So they believe that India is not a true federation. And why they say that India is not a true federation? Because the center is stronger in case of India, unlike the US, where you find that center is not that strong, है ना. वहां पे residuary power lies with the states, and there is equal representation of state in Rajya Sabha, in their Senate, है ना. They have the Senate, so in their Senate there is equal representation of states. No. नहीं, ये सही नहीं है ऑप्शन. वही है कि देखो, पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू अलग हो जाता है, लेकिन इंडिया कैन नॉट बी टर्म्ड एज अ क्वासी फेडरल कंट्री. वी डू नॉट अग्री दैट इंडिया इज अ क्वासी फेडरेशन, है ना. ए और बी सही दिया है. नहीं नहीं, ये सही नहीं है, क्योंकि वही है. नहीं, अगर एग्जाम में आएगा तो आप लिखोगे बोथ आर इनकरेक्ट. इंडिया इज अ फेडरेशन. Yes, India is a federal form of government. हाँ, फेडरलिज्म प्रैक्टिस करता है. इंडिया खुद एक फेडरेशन है ना. तो दीज आर, ये इंग्लिश के ही शब्द को हम अलग अलग तरह से बोल रहे हैं, मतलब वही है. फेडरल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, फेडरेशन, है ना, ऑल वन एंड द सेम थिंग. हाँ, ये आंसर वुड बी डी. नीदर. अच्छा, बिकॉज दी क्या है इसमें? सी, इन दिस कंटेक्स्ट, अगर ये क्वेश्चन इस तरह, इस पैटर्न में आ रहा है ना, कि बोथ, I'll just check it with them, because these statements are not correct. But if I had to, कि अभी मुझे यही 4 ऑप्शंस है और इन्हीं चारों ऑप्शंस में से मुझे कुछ चुनना है, then maybe, as they have said, कि both A and, है ना, assertion and reason are true, and reason is the correct explanation of A. In that context, maybe I'll be forced to. अगर एग्जाम में आएगा, अगर यही 4 ऑप्शंस रहेंगे, देन आई हैव नो अदर ऑप्शन. हाँ, हमें जो ऑप्शन आ रहा है उसी में से सिलेक्ट करना है. देखो, लेकिन अगर ये एक जनरल स्टेटमेंट होता, इजंट इट ट्रू, जो ऑप्शन आएगा उसी में से तो सिलेक्ट करना है. कुछ 5वां ऑप्शन हम लिख के आ सकते हैं? नहीं, डी ऑप्शन तो है नहीं ना इसमें. ए इज फॉल्स, आर इज ट्रू, हमेशा कोई ना कोई एक स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट हो रहा है ना. अगर हमारे पास ये ऑप्शन होता कि बोथ आर इनकरेक्ट, द आंसर इज बोथ इज इनकरेक्ट. India is not a quasi federation. This is not a point of view that we accept. And ये accepted है आज के दिन. इस पे कोई डिबेट नहीं है कि इंडिया क्वासी फेडरल है या नहीं है. ये डिबेट एक समय पे किसी 2-3 पॉलिटिकल स्कॉलर्स ने क्रिटिसाइज किया था, उसके बाद वेस्टर्न पॉलिटिकल स्कॉलर्स हैव एक्सेप्टेड, है ना. यू हैव ग्रैनविल, ऑस्टिन, है ना, एंड सच अदर स्कॉलर्स हु हैव सेड a country is a federation or not a federation. This concept of quasi federation itself is wrong. And in fact he says India is a cooperative federation. ठीक है, तो we are a federal state, there is no doubt. It would be foolishness if we would have just replicated USA's model, है ना. ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं है इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में. it would not be wise to replicate USA's model. Plus you find that as you study further, एक तो हमें ये पता है कि 1949 में ये अडॉप्ट कर लिया था इस तरह के प्रोविजंस, एंड दिस हैज कंटिन्यूड. सो इट हैज स्टूड द टेस्ट ऑफ टाइम. वन, later on when you study center state relations, you will study, है ना, there was a committee known as सरकारिया कमीशन, very famous. ठीक है, फिर एक SR बोमाई का जजमेंट है ना. फिर नेशनल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रिव्यू कमिटी भी एस्टैब्लिश किया था गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने. Yes, over the years there has been a consensus. This is the federation, this is the kind of federation that works. Federation is very dynamic. Indian federation has also changed in its nature depending on which kind of government do we have at the center. We have a single party majority. We have something known as if we have a coalition government, and in fact federation is said to be more suitable to presidential form, less suitable to parliamentary form. We have not got into that detailing of it. We have just understood the general concept. अच्छा, एक I'll just tell you why is federation less suitable to parliamentary and more suitable to presidential. यूएस में क्या है? यूएस में प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम है और वहां पे they've adopted a federal form of government. Yes. However, in case of UK, they have a parliamentary form of government. Yes. And they are a unitary state. Yes. So why? Because in parliamentary form में क्या होता है? Parliamentary form में there is a tendency of increase in the number of political parties. Political parties over the period of time, multiple political parties will come into existence. और जैसे ही multiple political parties होगी, so there is a chance, the greater chance that the government at the center and the state would be different. There might be coalition. अगर सेंटर एंड स्टेट में गवर्नमेंट अलग अलग है, अलग अलग पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज की है, तो क्या होता है? सेंटर और स्टेट पे अलग अलग गवर्नमेंट है, तो उससे क्या होगा? कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म ट्रांसफॉर्म्स इनटू बार्गेनिंग. एक बहुत ज्यादा बार्गेनिंग नेचर हो जाता है. रादर देन थिंकिंग ऑफ नेशनल इंटरेस्ट, एट टाइम्स देयर इज अ कन्फ्लिक्ट बिटवीन रीजनल एंड नेशनल, है ना. तो एक तो कोऑपरेटिव ट्रांसफॉर्म्स इनटू बार्गेनिंग. फिर अगर यहां पे वापस से कोalition गवर्नमेंट आ जाती है सेंटर पे, यस, तो रीजनल पार्टीज वंस अगेन गेट ग्रेटर से, है ना. सो दे basically we say presidential form does not easily replicate, does not create many political parties. So generally it is more suitable to a federal form of government. लेकिन पार्लियामेंट्री में क्या है? मल्टीपल पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज आ जाएगी, तो उनका बहुत बार्गेनिंग शुरू हो जाता है. सेंटर विल ऑल्सो ट्राई, अभी भी कुछ कुछ स्टेट्स है ना, दे कीप गिविंग रिपोर्ट्स, है ना, न्यूज़पेपर में आप पढ़ते होंगे. अभी कहाँ के वो गवर्नर थे? तमिलनाडु के गवर्नर Yes, and he has been in news and उसपे काफी editorials भी आ रहे हैं because the way he is behaving, he did not read out the address to the state legislature, all such things he has been doing. So इसको कहते हैं कि गवर्नर्स रोल है ना, itself gets very much affected, क्योंकि अगर different parties है in the center and state, governor who is appointed by the center has more obligation to the center. Yes, he is a self-interested man. उसको अपना political future देखना है कि ये यहाँ पे 5 साल serve करके he wants to be reappointed in this state or some other state. He wants to have good relation with his bosses. Yes, so it complicates things. At times, what will the state governments will say if they have different political parties, then at the center, that the center is not giving me the due funds. The assistance which I require from the center is not coming in. है ना? So there are such issues, but that does not mean that we are not a true federation. We are very much a federation. Why? Because there is division of power mentioned in the constitution. State is not subordinate to the center. We have a written constitution, a constitution which is sufficiently rigid. Federal provisions को amend करना है, then you require ratification by 50% of the states. You have an independent judiciary. You have bicameralism. So all the essential conditions of federation or a federal form of government is fulfilled. है ना? अब हम कहे जैसे है ना, if we get into कि भाई bicameralism तो है लेकिन राज्यसभा ऐसा है, अब वो वैसा है, तो of course there will be differences in different countries that ought to arise. है ना, we cannot, हम vacuum में operate नहीं करते. एक social setting है, social setting में these systems run in a response to the social system. There is a society, there is a way of politics. दूसरे country में तो casteization of politics would not be looked upon as good. But in case of India, it has ensured that the democracy survives. We in fact talk that how casteization of politics in fact benefited Indian democracy. There is ज़्यादा discussion उस पे है rather than its ill effects on democracy. Caste system प्रॉब्लम है लेकिन डेमोक्रेसी के लिए वो बून रहा है. समझ में आ रहा है? तो दैट इज हाउ थिंग्स आर. सो देयर विल ऑफ कोर्स बी डिफरेंसेस एंड आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स वर वाइज टू हैव अ sui generis system. Yes, and anybody tells you that India is a quasi federation, we say no, India is not a quasi federation, we are very much a true federation. Why should the entire world replicate US when US itself is undergoing changes? वो तो static नहीं है ना 200 साल से, वो तो खुद भी change कर रहा है. Because that is how things are. And हम उनको exact replicate करते, हम sustain ही नहीं कर पाते. If we would have given territorial integrity, one of the essential features of US federation is indestructible union of indestructible states. Had we replicated US by 1950s, there would have been disintegration of India. India exist ही नहीं कर पाता. The people were so unhappy with the territorial boundaries that were carved. In fact, you will study later on. There were 3 committees set up by Government of India consequently, and back to back. Har committee talked against. They said no, there should not be linguistic reorganization of states in India because we had just come out of partition. So we were very worried कि अगर हम इस तरह के ethno-linguistic tendencies, ethno-linguistic nationalism को support करेंगे, then what will happen? It might further accentuate ethno-nationalism and India in making will be a lost project. So there were 3 committees set up by the Government of India. है ना, एक में तो जवाहरलाल नेहरू, सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल भी थे. बट हर कमिटी ने कहा कि नहीं, ऐसा स्टेट रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन on linguistic basis will not be suitable to India at this point of time and we should not go for it. Then there was a man in Andhra Pradesh. Yes, these states were demanding reorganization on the linguistic basis. So this Telugu man, he sat on a fast till death. Either government relents to state reorganization on linguistic basis, or else he will fast until death. And ultimately he died. Yes, he passed away. And after 56-57 days, he did not eat anything, and ultimately he passed away. And now this created the momentum that now the states will have to be reorganized on linguistic basis. And that is how we reorganized our states on linguistic basis. How was that feasible? Because we had Article 3 under the Constitution, which gives flexibility to the center in terms of reorganization of the state. Yes, so had we just blindly replicated the US model, wouldn't it be foolishness? So we have to act according to our circumstance. And if we act according to our circumstance, that does not mean that we are not a federation. If somebody says we are not a secular country, are we not a secular country? We are very much a secular country. Our society is such that the state cannot completely withdraw out of religion, because religion is very intrinsic to Indian way of life. Yes, unlike the West, religion is extremely intrinsic to the Indian way of life. And Indian religion, we also believe there are certain ill practices. There were certain ill practices. For example, continues to be the dowry practice, the sati pratha, child marriage. Yes, in case of the Muslim community, this provision of triple talaq. Yes, there are several practices in across religion which is quite derogatory to women generally, क्योंकि दुनिया patriarchal ही रही है ना. At times we interpret provisions, है ना, पहले के टाइम पे वो provisions valid थे, but as societies change, you need to change the meaning of those provisions. लेकिन अगर आप outdated interpretation रखोगे तो problem है. So there is a need for the state to intervene. As soon as India became independent, India came out with a Hindu code bill. Yes, so that is the idea. We cannot say that now our secularism is quasi-secular, or we are not a secular country. Indian secularism has also been criticized this way, but that does not mean we accept that criticism. If somebody says we are not a true federation, we are not a true secular country, we do not accept it. We are very much a secular country, but ours is a multicultural society. State cannot be completely indifferent. So rather what we have adopted, Sarva Dharma Sambhava. Yes, so according to our needs, we have to adopt the system. Yes, so in case of India, parliamentary system was more suitable. अब हम क्योंकि वेस्ट में ऐसा हुआ कि फेडरल फॉर्म आया प्रेसिडेंशियल के साथ, यूनिटरी आया पार्लियामेंट्री के साथ, तो क्या इसको अब हम ब्लाइंडली रेप्लिकेट कर ले? हमें तो अपना देखना है ना कि what suits us. So for us, what was suitable, that yes, we wanted to go for a federal form of government because there is such diversity. We wanted federation because the central government cannot take care of the entire country, cannot know what are the needs and demands at the local level. Also, this need for little self-determination. So we wanted to go for a federal form. But then, our population was illiterate. We did not want to give so much power to the executive and ensure only checks at 5-year interval. We wanted continuous check on the executive. And who can do this continuous check? The legislature in a parliamentary form of government. So we adopted parliamentary, then we went for federal, but still we had faced partition. So we were very much worried that integrity of India should not come under attack. So we gave more power to the center to ensure this feeling of nationalism, to ensure integrity of the Indian state, unity and integrity. Yes, fine. So please do not get confused. These are topics which are, ये पॉलिटिक्स के टॉपिक्स हैं, और पॉलिटिक्स का नेचर क्या है? कंटेस्टेशन, आर्ग्यूमेंट. तो ये सारे टॉपिक्स कंटेस्टेड हैं, इनके आइडियाज कंटेस्टेड हैं. एंड सिंस वी हैव नॉट एग्जैक्टली रेप्लिकेटेड द मॉडल फॉलोड बाय द अर्लियर कंट्रीज जो यूरोपियन थे, so our model of secularism at times has been looked down upon. Our model of federation has at times been criticized. But then, unlike other countries, our constitution has sustained. कहीं इतना sustenance नहीं है. बहुत सारे countries में बहुत बार constitution बदला है. Yes, in Pakistan, अभी थर्ड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है उनका ये, है ना. इन कंट्रीज लाइक नेपाल उनका ये सिक्स्थ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है ना. स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम 1948 टिल 2015 दे अडॉप्टेड देयर सिक्स्थ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन विद प्लस 2 इंटरिम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. 8 कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रहे हैं उनके हिस्ट्री में. Yes, over a period of 80 years, 8 constitution. But our constitution has sustained, our democracy has sustained, our territorial integrity has sustained. So, we were wise in what we were doing. Yes. So, that is what it tells us. Yes, fine. So please, है ना, इसको नहीं एक्सेप्ट करना है हमें इस तरह के कोई भी क्रिटिसिज्म को. एज फार एज इंडियन सिस्टम इज कंसर्न, जहां पे क्रिटिसिज्म है वहां पे वी हैव टू एक्सेप्ट, लेकिन यहां पे क्रिटिसिज्म का स्कोप नहीं है. Yes, fine. So that is the idea. Fine. Fine. Anybody else? Integrated judiciary. It shows that we have a stronger center. Yeah, we have not actually followed the federal model to the T. क्योंकि फेडरल मॉडल में यही होगा कि you generally have two systems of courts whereby the court at the center या the federal court enforces the federal laws, whereas this courts at the state level would enforce state based laws. लेकिन हमारे यहाँ एक ही system of judiciary है जो organically linked and hierarchically arranged है, and they enforce both central and the state laws. हाँ, concerning the federal system in India, consider the following statements. States have no right to secede from the union under the Constitution of India is a federal feature. Yes or no? Yes. Parliament can create a new state, change the boundary of the state, alter the boundary of a state, is the federal feature. This is not a federal feature. ये हमारा feature है, लेकिन federation का ये feature नहीं होना चाहिए था, है ना. You find the existence of a single unified integrated judicial system is a feature of is a unitary feature of the constitution. इसमें ऑप्शंस ये है ना. So first statement is correct, है ना. The states have no right to secede from the union under the Constitution of India is a federal feature. Yes. The existence of a single unified integrated judicial system is a unitary feature of the Indian Constitution. Yes, this is also second statement is also correct for that matter. And a parliament can create a new state, change is a federal feature. So in this case, the options are only 1, only 2. तो only 2 तो correct नहीं हो सकता है. Yes. And all 3, none of the above. All the 3 maybe you'll have to mark it as correct. सेकेंड वाला तो करेक्ट नहीं है, लेकिन अब एग्जिस्टेंस, अब ये थर्ड वाला स्टेटमेंट ही वैसे है ना, इंग्लिश में कुछ इशू है इसमें. the existence of a single integrated judicial system is a feature of the unitary feature of the constitution. तो इसमें अगर वैसे देखा जाए हम लोगों की अंडरस्टैंडिंग से तो 1 and 3 आर करेक्ट, लेकिन इसमें ये ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. States have no right to secede from the union under the Constitution of India is a federal feature. ये सही है. कहां से यूनिटरी है? फेडरेशन में states have no right to secede, है ना. States do not have a right to secede from the union. हाँ, तो हाउ मेनी में भी तो अच्छा, तो ओनली 2 होगा ना फिर. How many statements given or is or are correct? क्योंकि ये स्टेटमेंट देखो, थर्ड वाला स्टेटमेंट ना ग्रामेटिकली इनकरेक्ट है ना, तो ये शायद कुछ लिखना चाह रहे होंगे, बट अदरवाइज द आंसर हाउ मेनी स्टेटमेंट्स आर करेक्ट में इट विल बी 2, जो हमें समझ में आ रहा है। एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ अ सिंगल यूनिफाइड इंटीग्रेटेड जुडिशियल सिस्टम इज द यूनिटरी फीचर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, है ना। तो ये इट इज नॉट अ फेडरल फीचर, इट इज अ यूनिटरी फीचर, इट इज एन इंडिकेशन ऑफ अ स्ट्रॉन्ग सेंटर, है ना। तो इन दैट कंटेक्स्ट इट विल बी ओनली 2. हाउ मेनी स्टेटमेंट्स आर करेक्ट? वुड बी ओनली 2. देखो हो जाता है, कभी एरर होता है। इसी पेपर में 6-7 क्वेश्चंस कर। ऑफ कोर्स उसी में से हमें चुनना पड़ेगा, है ना। जो आंसर ऑप्शंस आएंगे उसी में से हमें आंसर चुनना पड़ता है, हम अपना तो कुछ नहीं डाल सकते हैं। तो वो तो है, लेकिन है ना, इंडिया इज नॉट अ क्वासी फेडरल स्टेट। लेकिन अगर इस तरह का जैसे इन्होंने दिया है, जिस तरह से फ्रेम किया, यू हैव नो अदर ऑप्शन बट हियर बट टू चूज both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Integrated judiciary, तो it is a unitary feature of the Indian Constitution. सेकेंड क्वेश्चन के स्टार्टिंग में, हाँ नहीं, ये जो हम बोल रहे वही सही है। अब बाकी जो कंफ्यूजन है वो आके मिलो मुझसे यहाँ पे, है ना। स्टेट्स हैव नो राइट टू सेसीड, ये सही है। एंड द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ अ सिंगल यूनिफाइड इंटीग्रेटेड जुडिशरी इज अ यूनिटरी फीचर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। फाइन। यूनिटरी, अभी तो उसका जवाब दिया। देखो ये स्टेटमेंट आएगा तब बताना, इस तरह से है ना, हम अपने मन से स्टेटमेंट बना के नहीं बोल सकते। कहाँ आया है दिखाओ, देख के फिर मुझे दिखाना, ठीक है। अभी तो मैं भी इस तरह से अपने हिसाब से, है ना, वी डोंट मेक स्टेटमेंट्स जस्ट लाइक दैट, है ना। तो जब देखोगे तब बताओ। अभी फाइन, वी आर स्टार्टिंग विथ यस बट सॉरी, नीति आयोग। नीति आयोग, नीति आयोग एक्ट्स एज अ थिंक टैंक, है ना। इट एक्ट्स एज अ थिंक टैंक। नीति आयोग का एग्जैक्ट रोल क्या डिस्कस किया है? मतलब वो पूछ रहा है कि डज इट, देखो नीति आयोग इज अ थिंक टैंक एंड नीति आयोग replaced the planning commission. So planning commission for sure was an entity which led to a strong center, है ना। नीति आयोग बीइंग अ थिंक टैंक, बट एनीवेज वो सेंट्रलाइज्ड प्लानिंग में भी हेल्प करता है, लेकिन वो और क्या करता है, आई विल हैव टू जस्ट लुक इनटू इट बिफोर आई से कि does it lead to strong center or not, and a centralized planning of course is a feature of a strong center. Yes, 5-year plan, centralized planning are examples of a strong center, but Niti Aayog being a think tank, है ना। So let us just check once. Fine, so we are starting with local government. Yes, what do you mean by local government? Yes, what do we mean by local government? रीजनल लेवल तो स्टेट है, गवर्नमेंट एट लोकल लेवल है ना, द गवर्नमेंट एट डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल, एट विलेज लेवल इज नोन एज द लोकल गवर्नमेंट, है ना. गवर्नमेंट एट लोकल लेवल, बी इट डिस्ट्रिक्ट और विलेज लेवल. So in case of India, we have Panchayati Raj institutions, or else we have urban local bodies. There are different types of urban local bodies depending on what is the nature of the nature. Is it a cantonment area? Is it a port area? Whatever it is. So we have urban local bodies. Fine. Now, why do we need to have a local government? Why is it essential for us to have local government? Yes, it is the government which is closest to the common people. Yes, इससे क्या फायदा है? They understand the local needs. They understand local needs and provide local solution. उसके अलावा बताओ. Because of large population. ठीक है, but what is the importance of local government? ठीक है, ठीक है, both of you are saying the same thing. Easily accessible with minimum cost. Yes, so they are very, very accessible. Yes, you know them very well. So in fact, you can ensure accountability. It can be the most accountable government. Yes, you can extract accountability very well from your local representatives. Yes, because they are the closest to you, they are very, very accessible, you can reach them easily, and all such points with minimum cost. Yes, what else? Who take part in decision? Local people. People themselves. And in fact, it is only at local government level that people can actually participate directly in taking decisions which affect their lives. Otherwise, we have to appoint our representatives. We cannot be a participant in the actual decision making which affect our lives. But in case of local governments, we can do so. Yes, in fact, we give the justification towards a local government based on two ideas. एक है डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन. डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन का मतलब क्या है? पीपल आर गेटिंग टू डायरेक्टली पार्टिसिपेट इन डिसीजन मेकिंग, इन डिसीजंस which affect their life. A meaningful participation है ना? That is what we mean by meaningful participation. People are able to participate in decision making which directly affect their life. ठीक है, democratic decentralization. In fact, Gandhi ji was a chief proponent of the idea of democratic decentralization. He believed creating hierarchy of authority leads to concentration of power in a few, and when there is concentration of power in few, it tantamounts to violence. We act according to what the central government says because there is a fear that there might be punitive actions taken against us. Yes, so there is an element of violence. In fact, Gandhi ji actually did not want a central government to exist. He believed in a stateless society. मार्क्स किस में बिलीव करते थे? कार्ल मार्क्स. हमने पढ़ा क्लासलेस प्लस स्टेटलेस, वो भी स्टेटलेसनेस में, और गांधी जी भी स्टेटलेसनेस में. यस, we'll come to that. एक तो डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन हुआ, एंड दूसरा आइडिया इज प्रिंसिपल ऑफ subsidiarity. Principle of subsidiarity. Democratic decentralization and principle of subsidiarity. Yes. So principle of subsidiarity का मतलब क्या है? Give the decision making to the local level till the time decision can be taken at the local level. To ensure efficient administration, whatever decision, whatever can be done at the local level should be devolved or delegated to the local level, should be given to the local level. Yes, this is the principle of good administration and efficient administration. जो चीज लोकल लेवल पे हो सकती है उसको सेंट्रल या स्टेट लेवल पे मत करो, है ना. तो दैट इज द आइडिया. सो दीज टू आर, एक तो डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन, जिस आइडिया makes a case for a strong PRI system or local government system, and also the principle of subsidiarity, which is for efficiency of administration. Yes, for efficiency of administration, also emphasizes on the idea that yes, whatever can be done at the local level should be allowed to be done at the local level. Fine. So that is the reason we support local governments. So why local governments? Will give these two ideas. Yes, fine. Let's write it down. पहले लिखो, what do you mean by local governments? It is the government at the village and the district level. It is the government at village and the district level. Full stop. Yes. Next, why local government? Point number one, it is the government closest to the people. It is the government closest to the people. Yes. Write down, it is the government which deals with, it is the government which deals with, it is the government which deals with local issues and local concerns. Yes, it is most aware of these issues and concerns. Yes, full stop. People can easily access them, with minimum costs, full stop. Third, allows for meaningful participation, Write down, common people can be involved in decision making. Common people can be involved in decision making. Concerning their lives. And last point, ensures purposeful accountability. Ensures purposeful accountability. Purposeful accountability. Purposeful accountability. Yes, since common people are more familiar, since common people are more familiar with their local government than at the state or the central level. Then at the state or the central level. They are more familiar with the local government. Familiar with the local government at than at the central or state level. Fine. Change the paragraph, write down. PRIs या local governments लिखो. Local governments are based on the principle of democratic decentralization. Democratic decentralization, underline, principles of democratic decentralization and principle of subsidiarity. And principle of subsidiarity. Underline principle of subsidiarity. Yes. What do we mean by democratic decentralization? Democratic decision making has percolated down to the people. It has been decentralized, and a center is not taking that decision, but it is the common people who will be taking the decision. Yes. Do you want to write it down or is it fine? लिखो डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन का मतलब क्या है? डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन refers to decision making percolating down to the people, to the common people. Yes. And not limited to the central government. है ना? Central government मतलब वही higher up authority है ना? So people get right to take decisions. Yes. Write down. In fact, गांधी जी ने democratic decentralization को समझाने के लिए ओशनिक सर्कल्स ऑफ पावर का कंसेप्ट दिया था. ठीक है. ओशनिक, जैसे आप अगर ओशन में एक पेबल है ना, यू ड्रॉप अ पेबल, व्हाट विल हैपन? देयर विल बी concentric circles of power that will come to exist. So democratic decentralization leads to horizontal distribution of power rather than vertical distribution of power. Write down. Gandhi ji gave the idea of concentric oceanic circles of power. Oceanic circles of power to demonstrate horizontal distribution of power, rather than rather than vertical distribution of power या vertical hierarchy of power. Yes. Next, ये principle of subsidiarity भी लिखो. Principle of subsidiarity. Yes, principle of subsidiarity, write down. Whatever can be done at the local level, should be performed at the local level. Should be performed at the local level. It ensures efficiency of administration. It ensures efficiency of administration. Efficiency of administration. Full stop. Fine. Fine. So this is what do we mean by local government and why local government. Next is a brief history of local government. See, I don't want you to write it down. I've just mentioned it here. What is the brief history of local government? You find that as such, yes, the sabhas, the village assemblies, the self-governing village committees in the earliest times in the forms of sabhas. In ancient India, we used to have these sabhas, and they are one of the earliest examples of local level governance. Yes, where people would assemble and try and resolve their issues on their own. In course of time, these village sabhas took the shape of panchayats. है ना, आज के दिन भी, and in your local communities, you will have panchayats. Yes, though we have a government level body, you have your whatever it is, you have your urban local bodies, Zilla Parishad, district committee, your if you are from a village, so maybe panchayats, village panchayats as such. But otherwise, at the community level also, we till now have this tradition of the elderly in the community forming what is known as the panchayats, or they are known as the panchs. Yes. Fine. So this is the idea. So they eventually took the shape of panchayats, assembly of 5, who would try and look into the local issues and resolve them. In the modern times, you find that Lord Ripon, the Governor General, British Governor General, or the Viceroy of India, initiated in creating elected local governance bodies. Yes. So he took step in creating these urban local governance body during British rule. Now, during the freedom movement, Mahatma Gandhi had strongly pleaded for decentralization of economic and political power. He believed in strengthening the village panchayats as a means of effective democratic decentralization. Our national movement was also concerned about enormous concentration of power in the hands of the Governor General sitting at Delhi. Yes, so Mahatma Gandhi had made a case for democratic decentralization and strengthening of village panchayats. So he said that the independence of India should mean independence of all Indians. Yes, and that can happen only when we become or we establish village republics. Yes, independence must begin at the bottom. Every village should be or will be a republic. It follows, therefore, that every village has to be self-sustained and capable of managing its own affairs. When the constitution was prepared, however, you find that the government, local government, as a subject was assigned to the states, and it was in the DPSP that there was this provision of establishing PRIs and local government. तो DPSP क्या है? Non enforceable. So है ना, DPSP talks about establishment of village panchayats. Yes, this provision of the constitution is non-justiciable, non-enforceable, and it is primarily advisory in its nature. So why is it that we decided to put village panchayats in DPSP? Yes, and not put it or make it as an enforceable part of the Indian Constitution. This happened because there was the turmoil due to partition, which resulted in a tendency to create a strong center. Yes, in a strong unitary inclination of the Constitution himself. Nehru himself looked upon extreme localism as a threat to unity and integrity of the nation. Yes, because there was this idea that we need to go for a strong center. Nehru also believed in creating a modern state. Okay? So he believed that if we go for something so out of the box, an idea, and this idea of nation states, ये आया दुनिया में एक ट्रीटी थी, ट्रीटी ऑफ वेस्टफेलिया. ठीक है. In the 17th century, you find this idea of modern nation states came into being. 17th century में idea of modern nation states came into being. Yes. Now, if India were not to follow establishing a modern nation state, Nehru felt India can never get its rightful place in the comity of nation. How would India continue to function and cooperate with rest of the world? Yes, without being a modern nation state, rather than creating such a decentralized framework of governance, which is comprising just the village republics. Because Gandhi ji was in fact against creation of a state, a central government. So Nehru also could not see eye to eye. He could not see how this can be replicated in a reality. Yes, what Gandhi ji was saying is very true, that we should have freedom, independence at the village level, people's involvement in decision making, village republics, all that is true. But without a central government, without a strong central government, without creation of a modern nation state as it existed since 17th century, India could never be one of the important members of the international community. So he was against it. Also, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is the chairman, the father of the Indian Constitution, the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, he was very much against this idea of village republics. He said villages are a den of ignorance in India. Yes, they are ridden with caste system. Yes, he himself came from an untouchable community and had faced such severe discrimination in his life. So he was against this idea of village republics, because from his perspective, village were dens of ignorance. Yes, so B.R. Ambedkar felt that faction and caste-ridden nature of the rural society would defeat the noble purpose of local government at local level. Yes, this idea will not be sustainable. Now, once India got independence, though PRIs was made a part of DPSP, but in 1952 itself, India chose to launch what is known as Community Development Program. Community Development Program was to look at development from communities, from local level perspective. Focus on development at local level. Yes, however, this program was a non-starter. It was not a very effective program, did not bear very effective result. Why? Because in community development program, the bureaucrats were thought to be the agents of change. They were to lead community development. It was not elected panchayats, but rather the bureaucrats who were supposed to lead community level. अब district level पे आप appointed होते हो, तालुका level पे appointed होते हो. So they were expected to lead the wave of change, lead the development, lead community development. But they were so much ridden in the colonial mindset. India abhi independent hua hi tha. Babu Raj, they came to concentrate a lot of power in themselves. So they did not serve as good agents of change, and eventually this program becomes quite unsuccessful in case of India. Also, you find that some states did establish 3-tier panchayati system of local government, है ना? Other states, some states like Gujarat, Maharashtra adopted a system of elected local bodies, लेकिन कुछ state ने नहीं adopt किया. But in many states, these local bodies did not have enough powers or functions to look after local development. They were very much dependent on the state and the center for financial assistance. In many instances, these local bodies were dissolved and local government was handed over to the government officers. वही bureaucrats को hand over कर देते थे. Many states had indirect election to most local bodies, and the elections were postponed from time to time. Yes, fine. So you find that such was the condition, though we started with community development program, but then it was not, and it did not make much impact क्योंकि यहाँ पे bureaucrats were given primary power. उसके अलावा कुछ states ने पंचायती राज establish किया. कुछ ऐसे भी states थे जिन्होंने 3-tier पंचायती राज system establish किया. कहीं पे direct election था, कहीं पे indirect election था. The power was concentrated, continued to be concentrated in center and the state. Financial powers concentrated in center and state. Yes, and many a times these bodies would be dissolved. And would be dissolved, and they would not be re-elected for very long time or reappointed for very long time. The local administration was given to the government officers. So we had some sort of local government being endeavored, but it was not very, very successful. Later on, हमने काफी कोशिश किया. 1960s से, in fact, there were several committees and their reports coming in, and each committee had its own recommendation to be made. However, you find that it was in 1989 that P.K. Thungton committee recommended that constitutional recognition should be given to the local government bodies. Yes, finally it was this committee in 1989 which recommended कि constitutional recognition दे दो PRIs को, ULBs and PRIs को. Yes, and finally you find that in fact it was Rajiv Gandhi government which endeavored to give constitutional recognition to PRIs, but he could not manage the numbers. Somehow it could not come into be. And it is later on, it is only in 1992 that through 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act were passed, and through it the PRIs were given constitutional, PRIs and ULBs were given constitutional recognition. So 73rd Constitutional Amendment led to the establishment of PRIs, and 74th urban local bodies. Yes. So through these amendments, you find that constitutional status was finally accorded to PRIs and ULBs. Fine. So this is a brief history of local government development. We'll briefly discuss the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. Yes, you can give the heading as 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. Yes, 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. Write down, this act added a new part 9 to the Constitution, and it added a new part 9, and this part is termed as the Panchayats. Yes. Fine. Write down the provisions. Now give a small subhead, provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. What were the provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act? The first provision was creating Gram Sabhas. Write down point number 1, Gram Sabhas. Yes. Now these Gram Sabhas were to be created at village or group of village level. ठीक है, और इसके members कौन होते? All the adult members who were enlisted in the voters list. Yes. However, what exact function the Gram Sabhas were to be performed were to be decided by the state. ठीक है, तो the constitution mandated creation of Gram Sabhas at village or group of village level, and its membership was decided. However, the exact function that it would be performing would be decided by the state governments. देखो, हम अभी जब ये देखेंगे इसके प्रोविजन, हम कई बार देखेंगे जो मेजर है ना, a broad structure has been given by the constitution, but the major transfer of the function है ना, the exact function that a body will perform has been left to the state legislature. Why is it so? Or let me frame it other way, why it took us so long to bring this Constitutional Amendment Act? Lack of literacy. Literacy has never been looked upon as a condition for democracy, है ना? Knowledge तो committees recommend कर रहे थे. अभी legislature को law बनाना है ना? Center को law बनाना है, state को मानना है. Yes, so you find that, and despite these recommendations, it took us a very long time before we could give constitutional status to PRIs. Yes, why was it so? Why it took us from, है ना, ये idea तो was there prior to India's independence. Yes, in fact we understood the importance of local governance so much that in 1952 itself community development program was launched. Yes, later on you find the government setting up a committee to study the impact of community development program. And since 60s and 70s there was always an endeavor to look into what can we do at the local government level. What should be the correct structure at the local government level? But still then, it was only in 1992 that we come out with Constitutional Amendment Act to establish the Panchayati Raj and urban local bodies. And you find that even now, we did not give, as far as functions to the PRIs and ULBs is concerned, there is a list, 11th and 12th schedule में, they have lists of functions that have been mentioned, but the exact number of functions that are to be transferred have been left to the state. Those states like Kerala have transferred all the functions, and they have in fact added few more functions and given it to the PRIs and the urban local bodies. But when it comes to other states, they have resisted from transferring the functions. तो ऐसा क्यों है? Yes, because state has to give up the power. Yes, because the power is taken. कहाँ से ये power ले रहे हैं? ये subjects किनके पास थे? State level government के पास थे. उनसे ये functions लेके local level को दे रहे हैं. Actually, the states were very, very insecure with respect to constitutional status to the PRIs and ULBs. The states thought that in case constitutional status is given, in case there are regular elections, there will be a new batch of local leaders that will emerge. And these local leaders are going to be a threat to the state level leadership. And they also thought that if the PRIs and ULBs become very, very powerful, the state government will become irrelevant. It will be the central government which will be powerful and the PRIs and the ULBs. And the state might just fade away into relative irrelevance. उनका रिलेटिव पावर कम हो जाएगा. इस वजह से स्टेट्स फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट टाइम रेजिस्टेड, एंड इनफैक्ट फाइनली ये जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट आता है, इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ कॉम्प्रोमाइज. यस, द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एक्सेप्ट्स कि आपको इस प्रोविजन में प्रॉब्लम है, चलो इसको हम वॉलंटरी कर देते हैं. इस प्रोविजन में प्रॉब्लम है, इसको वॉलंटरी कर देते हैं. ये प्रोविजन में प्रॉब्लम है, इसको वॉलंटरी. ओके, दीज ऑल प्रोविजंस नो प्रॉब्लम, फाइन आई विल मेक इट कंपल्सरी. So it was a matter of great compromise that the central government does with the state government. It was only then the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act comes into being. Therefore, you find that though we have Constitutional Amendment Act for the structure and function, many of the important provisions have been made voluntary, given to the state to choose कि आप कितना क्या देना चाहते हो, कितना फंक्शन देना चाहते हो, कैसे इलेक्शन करवाना चाहते हो, has been left to the states. Fine. So that is the idea. Let's write it down. Fine. First provision क्या लिखा आपने? ग्राम सभास. Write down under ग्राम सभास. They are to be established. They are to be established at the village or group of village level. Group of village level. Yes, full stop. Write down. They would comprise all adult members registered as voters in the area. Write down their functions and roles are to be decided by the state legislature. Yes. Next provision लिखो. 3-tier structure. Constitutional Amendment Act. This Constitutional Amendment Act, it was based on the recommendation of P.K. Thungtan Committee. है ना, उनकी कमिटी ने रेकमेंड किया था कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल स्टेटस देना चाहिए, एंड इवेंचुअली इन 1992 we passed this Constitutional Amendment Act and it entered into force in 1993. ठीक है, 1992 में पास किया गया, 1993 में this 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act entered into force. Yes. Yes, write down. Next is 3-tiered structure. 3-tiered structure में यही है, a uniform 3-tier structure, with in sub points you can write down sub point A, gram panchayat at the base, gram panchayat at the base. Second sub point, मंडला और तालुका पंचायत, मंडला और तालुका पंचायत, मंडला और तालुका पंचायत at the intermediate level, and जिला पंचायत Zilla Panchayat. Third sub point, Zilla Panchayat at the district level, है ना? It would cover the entire rural area of the district. Yes, इसी में लिखो, change the para, write down. However, states having a population less than 20 lakh people, comma, it was not necessary to establish panchayats at the intermediate level. Panchayats at the intermediate level. So in states like Tripura, Sikkim, where the population is less than 20 lakh, it is not necessary that you have an panchayat at an intermediate level. It can be just two-tiered structure. Fine. Next is elections. Elections कैसे होंगे? Direct elections, है ना? Write down direct elections. Representatives elected for 5-year term. Representatives elected for a 5-year term. Yes. Now, पहले क्या होता था कि these states at times would dissolve the panchayat bodies and then they would not hold election for very, very long period of time. So now they made it mandatory that if the PRI or the PRI is dissolved within 6 months, there should be re-election. Write down. In case the state government dissolves the panchayat, before the end of 5 years term, comma, fresh elections must be held, या new elections must be held. New elections must be held within 6 months. Next point, reservation. Reservation में क्या है? 1/3 of the seats reserved for women and seats reserved for ST and SC in proportion to their population. Write down. 1/3 of the seats are reserved for women, and for SCs and STs, and STs, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, in proportion to their population. Next, state election commission लिखते पहले. State election commission. So state election commission are created through the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes. Write down. They were created created for conducting elections at the local level. They have been given constitutional status. They have been given constitutional status. They have been given constitutional status like Election Commission of India. Like Election Commission of India. Yes. Next is State Finance Commission. State Finance Commission. State Finance Commission. Likho, they are to be constituted. They are to be constituted by the governor of the state. They are to be constituted by the governor of the state. By the governor of the state. Every 5 years. Every 5 years. It would review the financial position of the panchayats and make recommendations on distribution of revenues between the states and the local government. Between the states and the local governments and the local governments. Yes, at the state level, a state finance commission to recommend on the distribution of the revenue between the state and the local governments. Next point, transfer of subjects. Transfer of subjects. Write down 29 subjects. 29 subjects which were earlier a part of the state list. Earlier a part of the state list. Have been transferred to the 11th schedule. To the 11th schedule. 11th schedule. Write down these subjects are mostly linked to development and welfare function. These subjects are mostly linked to development and welfare functions. At the local level. At the local level. These subjects are mostly linked to development and welfare functions. These subjects are mostly linked to development and welfare functions at the local level. Full stop. However, the actual transfer of these subjects depends on the state legislature. Yes. So these are some of the provisions as far as the 73rd constitutional amendment is concerned. As such, local urban bodies and PRIs are important topics that you would be studying in little more detail when it comes to the foundation course. Here we are just having an overview. So we have understood what do we mean by local government, what is the purpose of local government. Two important concepts that I have introduced is democratic decentralization and principle of subsidiarity. Beyond that, what are the constitutional provisions with respect to the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act? A brief overview with respect to the functions. So you have the Gram Sabhas, the three-tiered structure. You have regular election, state election commission, state finance commission, transfer of subjects from the state list into the 11th schedule. But all these subjects which are mentioned to this 11th schedule, in this 11th schedule have not actually been given to the PRIs. Yes, as I told you, the state legislature voluntarily decides how many subjects it actually wants to transfer to the PRIs. Yes, so these are some of the constitutional provisions, and you find that these provisions are such. Why? Because the state level government was always apprehensive that if we give too much power to the PRIs, the transfer of power will take place from state level government to the PRIs, such that eventually the state governments would fade away into relative irrelevance. Plus, if a strong leadership is generated at the local level, they might create competition for the state level leadership. तो इस वजह से काफी guarded provision है as far as the 73rd, in fact 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Fine. Briefly 74th Constitutional Amendment के लिए भी लिख लो. Uh, 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes. So this has added a new part to the Constitution known as Part 9A. Added a new part, Part 9A, to the Constitution. Part 9A to the Constitution. Yes. And इसी में लिखो next point. 18 functions, 18 functions, 18 functions are listed in the 12th schedule. 18 functions are listed in the 12th schedule. Yes. So you find that वहां पे 29 है, यहाँ पे 18 functions ही assigned है, and they have also defined the urban area. ना, this is the government which will apply to the urban area. तो urban area का क्या provision है? The Census of India has defined urban areas as an area with a minimum population of 5,000. At least 75% of the male working population should be engaged in non-agricultural occupation. Density of the population should at least be 400 persons per square kilometer. Yes, and according to the 2011 census, about 31% of the India's population lives in urban areas. We will not get into the details because there are 9 types, 8-9 types of urban local bodies, which we are not going to discuss at this point of time. Depending on what is the nature of the urban area, you have a different sort of an urban body that gets created. Yes, we have just read on the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Next is, what are the achievements of local government at the local government? Yes. Fine. So what are the achievements? You find that the 73rd and 74th Amendment have created uniformity in the structure of Panchayati Raj and Nagar Palika institutions across the country. पहले क्या था, कोई uniformity नहीं थी. Some states had 2-tiered structure, other states had 3-tiered structure. Yes, in some states there was direct election to these bodies. In some states there was indirect election to these bodies. So there was lack of uniformity across these structures. In fact, one of the objective of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act was to create uniformity. है ना, कि अब कुछ uniformity होना चाहिए across the local bodies. Yes, then presence of these local institution in itself is quite significant achievement. Yes, because it creates a scope for people's participation. It creates scope for regular people's participation. And you find that more than 32 lakh members are elected to these bodies every 5 years. And of these, at least 13 lakh are women. Yes, in state assemblies and parliament put together, we have just 5,000 elected representatives. Yes, so with local bodies, the number of elected representatives have increased significantly. Yes, so you find that the number of representatives, scope of representation has significantly gone up. Yes, compared to 5,000, there are now 32 lakh members who are elected every 5 years at the local government level. Yes, women reservation is also quite significant. Women reservation is not just with respect to the membership, but chairpersons के लिए भी, है ना, हर level के chairperson के लिए भी reservation है for women. Yes, and as a consequence, a large number of women have come to occupy these seats. Yes, though there is a significant issue of Pati Sarpanch. Yes, where women is elected, but the real power is exercised by their husband. But then you find several examples where women representatives have made a difference. Yes, and you find there have been studies, there have been case studies, and a research भी हुआ है और case studies भी हुआ है, जिसमें you find that the topics, the areas on which a woman focuses upon in terms of administration are different from the areas or sectors that men focus upon. So जो areas है जो women focus upon, they tend to make real difference in the lives of women and children at the village level. Yes, so you find that women representation, as it has gone up in the local bodies, they have made significant differences in the lives of the common people. Yes, plus there is this distribution of power. Eventually the society comes to accept greater role played by women. And it is a very positive step in that regard. Women have gained more power, confidence by asserting control over resources. Their presence in these institutions have given many women a greater understanding of the working of politics. They have brought a new perspective and greater sensitivity to discussions at the local bodies. In fact, there is a study which says that just if a woman is sitting in that table when the discussion is going on, that itself makes a difference to the nature of discussion that goes on. Even if she's not very actively contributing to the discussion, if she's just sitting on the table, it does make some difference to the nature of discussion that goes on. So with women representation, है ना, ये दोनों चीज you find that have increased. Empowerment of women has also taken place to an extent, plus the kind of issues that they are looking into have led to empowerment, have led to improvement in living condition of the village. Sanitation, education, access to water, है ना, ये सारे जो issues थे, बहुत fundamental issues थे, but create a lot of problem at the village level. Their accessibility has increased quite a bit, and women have made substantial contributions there. While a reservation has also been provided for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, the population, the Indian population has 16.2% of the scheduled caste and 8.2% of the scheduled tribes. This has also significantly altered the social profile. It has made the local bodies much more inclusive. है ना, तो यहाँ पे अक्रॉस कास्ट रिप्रेजेंटेशन दिखता है. इस वजह से द लोकल बॉडीज हैव बिकम मच मोर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव. दे रिप्रेजेंट द सोशल रियलिटी विद इन विच दे ऑपरेट. Fine. So these were some of the achievements as far as reservation is concerned. Empowerment of the common people vis-a-vis decision making is concerned. Yes, and much higher increase in, as such, representativeness of these bodies, for uniformity in structure and all such things. However, despite the achievements, there is also significant failure that we see at the PRI's level. And when we talk about failures here, challenges, we talk in terms of the problems of 3 F's. The PRIs face 3 deficits, or the deficit of 3 F's: functions, funds, and functionaries. Yes. So, though 29 functions have been listed in the 11th schedule, but all these functions have actually not been transferred by the state government to the PRIs. Yes. As I told you, the transfer has been made voluntary. So, some states like Kerala have done very well, but other states have transferred very few subjects, और सब्जेक्ट्स विच हैव जेन्युइन, है ना, कुछ जेन्युइन डिफरेंस क्रिएट करने का स्कोप उनको नहीं दिया गया है, क्योंकि ट्रांसफर ऑफ सब्जेक्ट इटसेल्फ हैज नॉट टेकन प्लेस. ऑल्सो दे फेस सीवियर क्रंच ऑफ फंड्स. देयर इज अ सीवियर फंड क्रंच. फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज आर नॉट सब्सटैंशियली डिवॉल्व्ड, है ना. उनका जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रोल है, दे रिक्वायर अराउंड मिनिमम ऑफ 2% ऑफ द finances available at the state level, but they have access to 0.6% of the finances. ऐसे करके studies है. So severe financial crunch. Also they need people, है ना, to, अब उन्होंने कहा है कि ठीक है, village level पे let's dig a well, let's go for rain water harvesting, let's go for micro irrigation, let's plant saplings along the river banks, ताकि flood season में the coast is protected, the land is protected. But for that you need functionaries, but there are very limited functionaries who are present, who can enforce the decisions that they are taking up. Yes, so that is the problem of 3 F's. So you find that many states have not transferred most of the subjects to the local bodies. This means that the local bodies cannot function in an effective manner. Therefore, this entire exercise of electing so many representatives becomes somewhat symbolic. Plus, they do not enjoy much power of choosing the welfare programs and allocation of resources. तो अब क्या है कि फंड क्रंच है, तो उनके पास कोई अपने ऑटोनमस, दो द स्टेट फाइनेंस कमीशन इज टू सजेस्ट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ फाइनेंसेस, बट यू फाइंड दैट द फंड विच इज ट्रांसफर्ड टू देम, जो वो अपने ऑटोनॉमी के हिसाब से स्पेंड कर सकते हैं, अपने डिसीजन के हिसाब से स्पेंड कर सकते हैं, वो काफी कम होते हैं. मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द फंड दैट इज ट्रांसफर्ड हैपेंस इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ग्रांट्स एंड एड. मतलब सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के स्कीम्स को इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए ही अधिकतर फंड्स दिए जाते हैं, ना कि फंड्स विच दे हैव ऑटोनॉमी ओवर देयर यूज. तो फंड क्रंच रहता है. यस, सो दे डू नॉट गेट इनफ फंड्स, है ना, टू इंप्लीमेंट द वेलफेयर पॉलिसीज ऑफ देयर चॉइस. Yes, they have funds only to implement the welfare programs of the central and the state government. Yes. Also, some people criticize the formation of local bodies because this has not changed the way in which decisions are taken at the central or the state level. उनका कोई per se input का कोई structural provision नहीं है कि state government before taking any decision is necessary to consult the PRIs, है ना, या district level committees. ऐसा कोई provision per se नहीं है. So the decision making as it was happening prior to the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act continues to happen even now. They have very little funds of their own. The dependence of local bodies on state and central government for financial support has greatly eroded their capacity to operate effectively. Local urban bodies raise 0.24% of total revenues. क्योंकि कुछ जब ये जो स्टेट फाइनेंस कमीशन है ये कुछ ड्यूटीज फीस उनको ट्रांसफर करती है कि ये जो टैक्स है ये आप खुद रेज करो, कुछ ये चार्जेस हैं जो आप खुद रेज करो और अपने पास ही रख लो वो पैसे. यस, so they raise just 0.2.4% of their total revenue and they account for 4% of the total expenditure made by the government. So they have problem vis-a-vis funds. Functionaries are also limited. Sometimes it leads to tension. और ये जो social cohesion है ना, you have created a body comprising SCs, STs, women, but people are not ready to accept leadership of SCs, STs or women. तो अब ये constitutionally mandate तो कर दिया है, but when they meet, there is social tensions at times because the society as such has not been ready, do not wish to give up. The dominant social groups do not wish to give up their powers. Yes, at times it leads to intensification of struggle for power, and then there is this phenomena of Pati Sarpanch. Yes, where women sirf naam ke liye they get elected, the real power is exercised by her husband. Yes, fine. So this is with respect to the urban local bodies. A brief overview में discussion किया है with respect to it, है ना. Further discussion है ना, इसमें हम classify भी करते हैं voluntary provision, involuntary provision, है ना. इस तरह की जो minute चीजें करते हैं वो हम we'll do it at foundation level. Here we have just got an idea कि local government level पे this is the provision. Fine. As far as the achievements and failures, I'm not making you write. I have put it in the PPTs. The PPTs will get uploaded. You can make a note of it in your notebooks. Fine. So with this, we complete this topic. Let's take a break and then we'll discuss amendments. So we'll take a 10 minutes break and then we'll discuss the provision of amendments. Yes, starting once again. The last topic that we will be discussing is, yes, amendment process under the Indian Constitution. The amendment process under the Indian Constitution. The first topic under it would be, why is there a need for amendments? Yes, there is a need to undertake amendment to make changes according to time evolving needs. Yes, evolving circumstances. What else? तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट की जरूरत नहीं है नेसेसरली, है ना. जनरली पूछ रहे हैं कि क्या जरूरत है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट की. Yes, yes, ठीक है, तो वही है, चेंजिंग नीड्स, चेंजिंग सर्कमस्टांसेस, चेंजिंग टाइम्स. यस, डिस्प्यूट्स को रादर हम कहेंगे ड्यू टू एट टाइम्स पॉलिटिकल अपहीवल्स, है ना. अ कंट्री, है ना, चेंजेस फ्रॉम अ पार्लियामेंटरी फॉर्म टू प्रेसिडेंशियल फॉर्म. Yes, there is a revolt in a country raising demand for something very drastic. To accommodate that demand at times, you need to bring in constitutional amendments. Yes, so because of these reasons, to make changes according to time, evolving needs, evolving circumstances. Yes, in certain circumstances, as you were saying, it might so happen that with time, the conflict between two groups have grown. Yes, to resolve that conflict, and you can always add and delete provisions of the constitution. Yes, so constitution has to be a living document. Constitution has to be adaptable to the changing times and changing needs. Write down, why need for amendment? Why need for amendment? To reflect changing times, changing needs, changing times, changing needs. Yes, to accommodate changing social aspirations, to accommodate changing social aspirations, and at times because of certain political upheavals, at times because of political upheavals. Yes, agar military coup ho gaya, you change your constitution, you bring certain changes, whatever it is, है ना. There is always a need for certain changes to be introduced. Now, constitution as such can political upheaval. Yes, constitution is never a static document, in fact. Yes, constitution needs to evolve with time. Yes, we have an example of Soviet Union. Soviet Union had 4 constitutions in its lifetime of 74 years. Yes, in 1991, the rule of the Communist Party of Soviet Union came to an end, and soon the Soviet Federation disintegrated. After this political upheaval, formed the Russian Federation form hua, and they adopted a new constitution. But now look at India. India adopted its constitution on 26th of November 1949. It entered into force on 26th January 1950. Yes, so even after more than 73 years, as such, the same constitution continues for India. Yes, I gave you the example of Nepal, where they have had 6 constitutions. Pakistan, which got independence at the same time, a day before India, has had 3 constitutions. Myanmar has also several constitutions. So why is it so that Indian constitution has sustained? What is so unique about the Indian constitution? Is this constitution perfect, that there has been no need felt by Indian people to change their constitution? We continue with the same constitution, which happens to be 73 years old now. Yes, so what is the reason? What makes the Indian constitution so very durable? Yes, one of the primary reasons, one primary reason is the flexibility. Flexibility, सिर्फ flexibility है क्या? In fact, Indian Constitution is a very forward-looking document. Yes, it is a constitution which was framed by the foresighted leadership that India had, who were able to agree to a basic framework of governance which is suitable to Indian society. To begin with, they came out with such a form of government, है ना. हमने Indian constitution has been formed by ransacking all the non-constitutions of the time. है ना. B.R. Ambedkar had proudly proclaimed that we have formed a constitution by ransacking all the known constitutions of the time. But what we have done, we have adopted those provisions and also modified provisions according to our needs, our circumstances. So we find that we were able to create a framework which is very much suited to the Indian society. Second, this framework was created through reasoned public debate. It is a consensus document. इसका मतलब क्या है कंसेंसस डॉक्यूमेंट का? मेजॉरिटी वोट से नहीं अडॉप्ट हुआ था इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, कंसेंसस से अडॉप्ट हुआ था इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. और हाँ, उसका इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है? इंपॉर्टेंस ये है कि इट वॉज नॉट दैट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली डिड नॉट कंप्राइज ऑफ पीपल हैविंग डिफरेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. We had people from very different schools of thought. Yes, several had socialist bent, several had Marxist bent, several had liberal frame of mind. There were few anarchist, few Gandhian in the Constituent Assembly. तो सबका world view अलग था. Thinking process was different. Yes, some argued that president should be directly elected. Others argued indirect election. राज्यसभा होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, स्टेट लेवल पे बाइकैमरलिज्म मैंडेटरी करे नहीं करे, स्टेट इलेक्शंस के लिए जो इलेक्शन कमीशन बनेगा वो उसका नेचर क्या होगा. एक्सेप्ट फॉर वन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन ऑफ यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज, देयर वाज lot of disagreement, lot of debate and discussion with respect to each and every provision of the constituent assembly of the constitution. In fact, even till date, हमारे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में डिबेट्स हुए, दे आर वेरी वेरी रिच. यस, even till date, the Supreme Court of India, when it has to give a judgment vis-a-vis interpretation of the Constitution or other important provisions, many a times they go back to the Constituent Assembly debates. They were open to the public, they were open to the press, and they have been very well documented. In fact, the Constituent Assembly debates are also a very rich source of content when it comes to UPSC examination. Yes, I have many of you coming to me as saying that, ma'am, for अभी क्या पढ़े पॉलिटी के लिए, लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ रहे हैं. Yes, so you find that on many topics, in fact, see, it would not be within your scope to go about reading every Constituent Assembly debate. But as a teacher, when we take up these topics, we refer to Constituent Assembly debates. Yes, because very well documented, very rich content, diverse perspective मिलता है. Why India went for such a state in such a manner, and that is understood very well. So the Supreme Court also continues to refer to it. So you find that such was the nature of debate and discussion that they were able to convince the other. Nobody was forced to accept any point of view. Everybody tried to convince the other of their argument. Yes, through reasoning, through well thought of arguments. Yes, so because of it also we find that the constitutional framework, unlike अभी नेपाल का example है, 2015 में I told you उन्होंने अपना लेटेस्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अडॉप्ट किया था. जब 2015 में उन्होंने अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अडॉप्ट किया था, ये एक मेजॉरिटी डॉक्यूमेंट है, नॉट अ कंसेंसस. जैसे ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अडॉप्ट किया, सर्टेन कम्युनिटीज इम्पोज्ड अ ब्लॉकेड, वो है ना बाइकॉट पे चले गए और उन्होंने इंडिया नेपाल जो हाईवे है उसको ब्लॉक कर दिया. सिमिलरली इन केस ऑफ म्यांमार, their latest constitution they adopted in 2008. Yes, and this was adopted under the fear of the military rule. ठीक है, मिलिटरी ने एक रेफरेंडम क्रिएट किया. रेफरेंडम में लोगों ने कहा कि हाँ हमें नया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन चाहिए, और मिलिटरी ने फॉर्मुलेट कर दिया वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. It was not a matter of debate, discussion, reasoned argument. all people coming together, representatives agreeing on diverse point of views. ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. So in case of India, one of the reason for sustenance of this constitution, yes, is because it was a product of a reasoned public debate, and ultimately it was a consensus document. Yes. Another reason why we find that Indian constitution has sustained, because it is not just flexible. Agar extremely flexible hota, then we had gone for parliamentary democracy with cooperative federalism. और आज के दिन ऐसा हो सकता था कि वो cooperative federalism would have given way to dual polity, yes, or parliamentary form would have given to presidential form. चेंज हो सकता था. तो जो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर है दैट कुड हैव अंडरगॉन अ लॉट ऑफ चेंज, बट यू फाइंड दैट इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज सस्टेन, इट हैज बीन ड्यूरेबल बिकॉज इट इज द राइट ब्लेंड ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड रिजिडिटी. Yes, so while safeguarding the essential, हम secular country है तो आज तक secular ही है. Yes, there has been no government which has tried to amend secularism. Yes, so you find that the essential features have been safeguarded because of the rigidity. जो federal distribution of power continues to be such. है ना, there has not been concentration of power in the center even when there was single party rule. है ना, yeah, there has not been substantial shift of power to the state when there was coalition parties है ना, at the center. So you find that this has sustained, essential features have sustained while giving scope to make changes when required. Yes, so because of these reasons we find that the Indian constitution has been found to be extremely durable in nature. Yes, it has continued to sustain 73 years and without for us feeling the need to drastically change the constitution. And please remember, it is not that within these 73 years the society has not undergone a change. है ना, the society has substantially changed. है ना, पहले हमारे यहाँ क्या literacy था, क्या health condition था, that has substantially changed today. We were a closed economy. From a closed economy we have become an open economy. We are one of the emerging economies. Yes, we were a country which adopted the policy of non-alignment tilted towards socialism. Today we demonstrate, we are है ना, liberalization, neoliberal nation है हम. Fine, so we find that the society, the economic policies, the foreign policies have undergone substantial change. But despite all that, the constitution has been able to meet the requirements of the Indian people while providing the fundamental framework of governance. Yes, so this shows that yes, the constitution was in fact a foresighted document, continues to be a foresighted document in Indian context. Write it down. So you have given the heading, what makes Indian constitution so durable. तो उससे पहले लिखो in 74 years, in 74 years of life of Soviet Union, in 74 years life of Soviet Union, it enacted 4 constitutions. Yes, semicolon. It enacted 4 constitutions, semicolon. Pakistan has enacted 3 constitutions. While Nepal since 1948 has adopted 6 constitutions, with the latest being in 2015. Yes. Write down. Change next point. However, Indian Constitution, continues to function as a resilient framework of governance, continues to function as a resilient matlab stood the test of time, as a resilient framework of governance since 26 January 1950. Since 26 January 1950. Write down 1950. Next, इसी में लिखो the reasons for durability of Indian Constitution, for durability or resilience of Indian Constitution. Point number 1. The basic framework that it provides for governance of the country is very suited to India. S-U-I-T-E-D. Write down, it is a product of the farsightedness. It is a product of the farsightedness of the Indian Constitution makers. Farsightedness of the Indian Constitution makers. Yes, and points write down. It is a product of reasoned public debate. Prioritizing India's national interest. Full stop. Prioritizing India's national interest. It is a consensus document. Next point, write down. It strikes the right balance. Between rigidity and flexibility. Write down. It preserves या safeguards the essential features central to the spirit of India. जो आइडिया है इंडिया का. India cannot one day turn out into a majoritarian state. India का आइडिया, इंडिया का वैल्यू सिस्टम इज pluralism, respect for diversity, multicultural society, है ना. So you find that therefore it is, है ना, these essential features which are central to the idea of, central to the spirit of India. क्या लिखा आपने? इट सेफगार्ड्स द एसेंशियल फीचर्स सेंट्रल टू द स्पिरिट ऑफ इंडिया while creating scope to accommodate the changing needs and aspirations. यस इसी में लिख सकते हो, नहीं तो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट की तरह लिखो, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज अ लिविंग डॉक्यूमेंट. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज अ लिविंग डॉक्यूमेंट. It is a living document. Yes, write down. It has been open to adaptations. It has been open to adaptations. It has been open to adaptations through constitutional amendments. Through constitutional amendments, as well as judicial interpretations. Judicial interpretations. and इसको अंडरलाइन करो, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट्स एंड जुडिशियल इंटरप्रिटेशंस. नाउ इफ समबडी सेज, है ना, इन द एग्जाम इफ देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज अ लिविंग डॉक्यूमेंट बिकॉज, एंड देयर आर टू ऑप्शंस, बिकॉज, है ना, फ्लेक्सिबल नेचर, प्लस, है ना, देयर इज स्कोप ऑफ अंडरटेकिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट्स, प्लस थ्रू जुडिशियल इंटरप्रिटेशंस. तो दोनों पॉइंट सही है. Indian constitution adapts to the changing time not only through constitutional amendments but also through judicial interpretation. Let me give you an example. हमने अभी पढ़ा था appointment to the judiciary. Yes, appointment to the judiciary जो constitutional provision था, article 124 clause 2. Yes, it said that the president is supposed to appoint the members of the judiciary in consultation, or he may consult such judges of the Supreme Court as he deems necessary. ये था प्रोविजन. तो इस प्रोविजन का मतलब क्या था, इसका इफेक्ट क्या हो रहा था? इसका इफेक्ट ये था कि द COM केम टू कंसंट्रेट पावर विज़-अ-वी प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन, सॉरी, विज़-अ-वी जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट्स. ऐसा ही हुआ क्योंकि कंसल्टेशन वाज नॉट मेड मैंडेटरी, इट वाज सेड ही मे कंसल्ट. लेकिन जुडिशरी थ्रू द वेरियस इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द दिस प्रोविजन की इन अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ जजेस अदर देन CGI, ही मे कंसल्ट CGI, या ही शुड कंसल्ट CGI, है ना, ही शुड कंसल्ट CGI. तो कंसल्टेशन का मतलब इन द 3 जजेस केस सुप्रीम कोर्ट अलग अलग दिया. Yes, in the first judge's case it said it is mere consultation, advisory nature, not binding on the president. Second case, it is binding on the president. In the third case, plurality of consultation, and as a consequence collegium system came into existence. So without any constitutional amendment, through judicial interpretation, the power shifts from the COM to the collegium system. पहले COM used to recommend, और अब क्या हो गया? Collegium recommends. Yes, fine. So you find that the constitution has adopted, the provision has undergone a change without actually a constitutional amendment. ठीक है, तो judicial interpretations carry a lot of value. They have the ability. Basic structure doctrine हमने पहले रेफर किया है क्लास में, आज भी करेंगे अभी. तो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्रिन इज नथिंग बट अ जुडिशियल प्रोनाउंसमेंट. कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट कुछ नहीं हुआ. इट इज अ शेयर इनोवेशन ऑफ इंडियन जुडिशरी, जिससे उन्होंने अपने पावर को एनलार्ज कर लिया. यस, और बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्रिन देके उन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट पावर ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट को लिमिट कर दिया. बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्रिन क्या है? In Keshwananda Bharti case, Supreme Court of India gave basic structure doctrine. उन्होंने कहा Parliament can amend the Constitution subject to the basic structure of the Constitution. तो पार्लियामेंट कुछ भी अमेंड कर सकता है, लेकिन बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर, बेसिक एसेंस ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, द एसेंशियल स्पिरिट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को नहीं चेंज कर सकता. तो सडनली फ्रॉम फेडरल वी कैन नॉट बिकम अ यूनिटरी स्टेट, फ्रॉम अ सेक्युलर वी कैन नॉट बिकम अ नॉन सेक्युलर कंट्री, है ना. और ये बेसिक फीचर्स कौन आइडेंटिफाई करता है? जुडिशरी खुद ही करता है. यस, और जुडिशरी ने इसका कोई एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट भी नहीं दिया है. विथ टाइम दे कंटिन्यू टू, है ना, वाइडन इट इन स्कोप. ठीक है. तो यू फाइंड दैट देर इज नो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन विच टॉक्स अबाउट बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर, बट टुडे the constitution cannot be amended by the parliament averse to the basic structure doctrine. जुडिशरी ने बता दिया है कि फंडामेंटल राइट एंड डीपीएसपी में जो बैलेंस है, दैट इज अ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. तो अब ये जो बैलेंस है, इसको डिसरप्ट नहीं कर सकता है द इंडियन पार्लियामेंट थ्रू अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट. Yes, so we say Indian constitution is a living document. Why? Because it is adaptable to changes through constitutional amendments plus judicial interpretations. Yes, it makes the constitution adapt to the changing times through both, through judicial interpretations without any changes being brought into the wording, into the letter of the constitution, and also through constitutional amendments. ठीक है. तो this is a very important idea. Indian constitution as a living document is essential to its survival because it evolves. Living document का मतलब क्या है? It evolves with time. So we are stating similar things in different phrases. Fine. So that is the idea. यहाँ पे आप लिख सकते हो until September 2023, until September 2023, 106 amendments, 106 constitutional amendments have been made. So we are a country which has witnessed a lot of constitutional amendments as such. Yes. But they have served the purpose without for us needing to change the constitution as such. Fine. So this is in terms of what makes the Indian constitution so very durable. Next is how to amend the constitution. How to amend the constitution. We have already discussed, है ना, जब हम बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर या एसेंशियल फीचर्स ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पढ़ रहे थे, तभी हमने डिस्कस किया था हाउ टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. देयर आर 3 ways in which we can amend the constitution. First is through ordinary legislation. Certain constitutional provisions themselves mention you can change me through ordinary legislations. Other can be amended under Article 368. And 368 talks about 2 ways to amend the constitution. One is through bringing a constitutional amendment bill. Under Article 368 itself you bring constitutional amendment bill. और इसमें क्या होता है, एक वे है by 2/3 members present and voting plus 50% of total strength of the house. And in certain circumstances where the federal provisions या federal distribution of power is to be changed, you will amend it by this plus ratification by 50% of Indian states. Yes. So these are the 3 ways to amend the constitution. Fine. Write it down. The ways to amend the constitution, there are 3 ways. There are 3 ways. One is through ordinary legislation. One is through ordinary legislation. है ना? So by simple majority. By simple majority. By simple majority. By simple majority. Yes. For example, इसके examples भी लिख लो. For example, altering the boundary or names of the states. Altering the boundary or the names of the states. Altering the boundaries or names of the state. एक और example लिख लो. Establishment or abolition. Establishment or abolition of state legislative council. Establishment or abolition of state legislative council. ठीक है? Then next way is under Article 368. Under Article 368. First, and under Article 368, first subpoint through special majority. Through special majority. Through special majority of 2/3 members present and voting. Of 2/3 members present and voting. Plus 50% of the total strength of the house. Plus 50% of the total strength of the house. Yes. And second is under second subpoint. Second, इसका example 2/3 members. Constitutional amendment of fundamental rights. है ना? Provisions of fundamental rights. Amendment of fundamental rights. And then the third way is special majority plus ratification plus ratification by half of the states. By half of the states. Yes, इसका example would be, yeah, put a hyphen in context of amendment of federal provisions of the Constitution. Yes. Yes. Fine. So this is with respect to the ways in which we can amend the Constitution. And the last idea that we need to discuss is that of the basic structure doctrine. Basic structure doctrine. Basic structure doctrine. Basic structure doctrine क्या है? Yes. It is a judicial pronouncement given in Keshwananda Bharti case, according to which the Parliament can amend the Constitution subject to the basic structure of the Constitution. or the basic essence of the constitution. So the constitution is free to be amended, but except the basic structure or the essential essence of the constitution, which cannot be amended. Yes, write down. Write down the basic structure doctrine. Yes, the basic structure doctrine was put forth, was given in Keshwananda Bharti case. In Keshwananda Bharti case. In Keshwananda Bharti case. 1973. According to it, the Constitution of India, can be amended except its basic structure, or essential features or essence. Yes, so the essence, the essential features, the basic structure of the constitution cannot be amended, except the constitution is open to amendment. Yes, write down next point. Write down, it allows the parliament to amend the constitution, but with the limitation, of the basic structure, Write down, through it strikes a balance between parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. It strikes a balance between parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. ठीक है, जुडिशियल सुप्रीमेसी जहां पे आपने लिखा है, लिखो इन ब्रैकेट, इन कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ judiciary as the final interpreter, of the constitution, full stop, write down, इसी में लिखो, full stop, write down, it is the judiciary which identifies the basic structures and has yet not given an exhaustive list of the same. exhaustive list of the same. Yes, इसका मतलब क्या है कि देखा जाए तो यूके लिस्ट ऑफ द सेम है ना, एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट ऑफ द सेम. सेम का मतलब किसको रेफर कर रहे हैं? बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर का लिस्ट, एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट आज तक नहीं दिया जुडिशरी ने. सो व्हाट वी आर सेइंग दैट इट इज ट्राइंग टू स्ट्राइक अ बैलेंस समवेयर between this idea of parliamentary sovereignty, where parliament has the free will to amend the constitution as it wishes. Flexible, जब extreme flexibility होगा of the constitution, then it becomes an example of parliamentary sovereignty. ठीक है. And parliamentary sovereignty is a feature of UK. Unwritten constitution, UK में the parliament can amend the constitution as it wishes to, easily through ordinary legislation. On the other hand, US is an example of judicial supremacy. वहां पे rigid है constitution. ठीक है. So you find US is an example of judicial supremacy. लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? Basic structure. By saying that the constitution can be amended, the parliament is free to amend the constitution subject to the basic structure. We are trying to strike a balance between flexibility and rigidity. Yes, and through it we are striking a balance between parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. है ना. तो इंडिया में हम कहते हैं कि हम पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी या जुडिशियल सुप्रीमेसी नहीं फॉलो करते, हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल सुप्रीमेसी फॉलो करते हैं. ठीक है. टू से दैट वी हैव अडॉप्टेड नीदर वेरी फ्लेक्सिबल नॉर वेरी रिजिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, वी से वी रादर फॉलो द आइडिया ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल सुप्रीमेसी एंड नॉट पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी और जुडिशियल सोवरेनिटी या जुडिशियल सुप्रीमेसी. Fine. So through it we are able to strike this balance. Yes. Write down. It further strengthens the balance between. It further strengthens the balance between rigidity and flexibility of the Indian Constitution. Yes, fine. Yes, in fact, will the parliament be happy with this doctrine of basic structure? Was the parliament happy? No. हमने पढ़ा है कि जब जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट की बारी आए, सीजीआई की अपॉइंटमेंट की बारी आए, they superseded those judges who gave a judgment in favor of Keshwananda, who gave a judgment in favor of basic structure doctrine. Yes. So in fact the Parliament of India tried to do away with this idea of basic structure doctrine through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. But then the judiciary unvalidated such an amendment. Yes. And in the Minerva Mills case, एक केस हुआ बहुत फेमस, Minerva Mills case, and उसके बाद से this basic structure doctrine has come to be accepted as an essential feature of Indian Constitution by all the three branches of the government. Fine. So there was an endeavor by the government of the day to undo with this judgment. Yes. So it is also an example. Yesterday we were discussing this conflict between the various branches of the government. Hai na? So yes, it was an example of that. But finally we have come to a consensus whereby we accept, all the three branches of the government accept the basic structure doctrine as an essential feature of Indian Constitution. Fine. So with this we conclude our discussion as far as amendment topic is concerned and pre-foundation polity classes is concerned. Yes. You all are welcome. देखो ये लोग डिसाइड करते हैं कौन है ना. देर आर अ ग्रुप ऑफ टीचर्स हु विल टीच द फाउंडेशन कोर्स. सो इट इज है ना, अब वो इट डिपेंड्स हु इज गोइंग टू मीट यू फर्दर. किस बैच के साथ आपका इंटीग्रेशन है. अच्छा, the purpose of pre-foundation was once again to give you a idea with respect to this subject. कुछ concepts we have introduced. I hope you have had that clarity of concepts. Yes, fine. You have got a brief idea with respect to the various topics that we touched upon. Further detailing, in-depth study will of course take place in the foundation course. Fine. On that note, I would like to conclude the classes. Anything that you want to discuss, you can come to me. ठीक है? Fine. Anything that you want to ask? कुछ है पूछना? Yes. Thank you to the online students as well. Yes, I hope you also have got an idea with respect to polity. Yes, वो 40 classes में होता है polity. We have tried to compress it here in 13 to 14 classes. Yes, so it was just meant to give you to build a framework for your further studies going ahead. Yes, as of now, what you should be referring to at this level, देखो अगर आप आगे पढ़ सकते हो, there is no problem, but जो expected है आपसे कि आप क्या पढ़ो, एक तो आप NCERTs पढ़ लो, because and also NCERTs have started becoming very important. Past 2-3 years, the kind of questions they are asking in prelims, at times a reading of NCERT makes it easier to answer. Yes, so it is expected. Now you have some time in hand. What is expected of you is that you read through the NCERTs. 9, 10 and 11th NCERT is what is expected from you. Plus, what I would suggest, newspaper reading. Be very, very thorough with your newspaper reading. Spend 2.5 hours and with respect to the newspapers. नहीं भी समझ में आए तो 2 बार पढ़ो, अंडरलाइन करके पढ़ो, read it again. Even if still you do not understand, it's okay. But rather than try and reading some other books, अभी it would be better. Because foundation में आपको ये सब है ना, फिर से detailing में लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ाएंगे. And beyond Lakshmikant does not these days serve the purpose. वो prelims के लिए okay book है आज के दिन. But mains नहीं serve करता है purpose. And the way to prepare for UPSC is a combined approach. You do not separate prelims and mains. You study it in combination. आप साथ में पढ़ते हो and just before prelims, 2-3 months before prelims, you stop studying from mains perspective. फिर आप थोड़ा narrow down कर देते हो अपना study. But otherwise, you prepare in congruence. There is no scope for separate preparation for prelims or separate preparation for mains, because in both you need conceptual clarity. Yes, so it would be a combined preparation as such. वो उस समय समझ में आ जाएगा, ऑटोमेटिकली समझ में आएगा आपको कि एग्जैक्टली अभी क्या नहीं पढ़ना है और क्या पढ़ना है. ठीक है, वो ऑटोमेटिकली यू विल बी एबल टू मेक दैट डिस्टिंक्शन. राइट नाउ इज टू अर्ली. फाइन. विथ दैट, on that note, I am concluding the classes. Thank you.